I want to start today's deep dive with a number.
Okay.
It's a very specific number, and quite honestly, it's a number that is going to make your eyes water. 62,000 pounds.
Wow. Okay. That is a significant sum. When you see it in black and white like that, it really hits you.
It is a massive sum, and that is the number that a guy named David Morrison saw staring back at him from a spreadsheet last month.
And who is David Morrison?
So, to set the scene, David is the founder of a fintech startup based in Stockport. They're doing well, they're growing fast, the product is landing.
The dream scenario.
The dream scenario. But, like every founder in that position, he reached a breaking point where he just realized, I need help. He needed a standard administrative assistant.
It's the classic growth paradox, isn't it? You succeed, so you get busy, so you need help. But then hiring that help is a full-time job in itself.
Exactly. So he went through the traditional process. He put up the ads, he did the interviews, and he hired a candidate based right here in the UK. He thought he knew what the cost was. He had the salary figure in his head. But then a few months in, he actually sat down and tallied up the real year-one cost.
Yeah.
He looked at the salary, sure. But then he started adding the layers.
Ah, the hidden iceberg of employment.
Precisely.
Right.
He added the employer national insurance contributions.
Right.
Which, let's remember, crept up by 1.2% in 2024. That's basically a direct tax on growth.
And that hike caught a lot of SMEs completely off guard. It really tightens the margins more than people think.
It did. Then he added the recruitment fees he paid to the agency to find the person.
Which is usually, what, 15, 20% of the first year's salary?
At least. Then the cost of the onboarding process, his time, his senior team's time, which is, the most expensive time of the entire company.
Of course.
Then the desk space in their co-working setup, which is not cheap in Manchester these days. Then the hardware, the new MacBook, the monitor, all the software licenses, the Slack seat, the email account, just goes on and on.
It all adds up. It's the burden that people always forget when they just look at a salary band on a job ad.
And the total hit 62,000 pounds for an admin role. For work that, in his darker moments, David admitted could probably be systemized or done by a very smart algorithm.
Ouch.
He told us he felt trapped. He said, and this is a quote, "We are growing 40% year on year, which should be a celebration. We should be popping champagne. But instead, every time I have to sign off on a new hire, I feel like I'm betting the company."
That sentiment, that visceral feeling of being trapped by your own success is the perfect storm facing small and medium businesses right now.
Especially in regions like Greater Manchester.
Absolutely. If you look at the macro data we pulled for this deep dive, the potential in the region is incredible. The Manchester economy is forecast to grow about 2.5% annually through 2026. The demand is there, the customers are there.
But the engine is overheating.
The engine is seizing up. It's what some analysts are calling a recruitment crisis. SMEs in the region are projected to spend something like $20.4 billion on recruitment in 2024.
Wait, hold on. Did you say billion?
Billion with a B.
That's the GDP of a small country. That is just an astronomical amount of waste.
It is, and you have to think about where that money isn't going. That is money that isn't going into product development.
Right. Or marketing.
Or marketing campaigns, or innovation, or R&D. It is just the entry fee to get human beings through the door. And the sources call this the slow bleed.
The slow bleed, I like that.
Because it takes, on average, about 30 days to find someone, and it costs around £3,000 just in search fees and time before they've even typed a single email for you.
So when we look at David Morrison's panic over that spreadsheet, he's not an outlier.
Not at all.
He is the norm. The traditional mechanism for adding capacity, hiring a local body for a seat in a local office, is becoming mathematically unsustainable for certain types of roles. It's just too heavy a lift.
Which brings us to why we're here today. Because if the old way is broken, what does the new way look like?
Right. We have a stack of sources today, financial reports, case studies, some internal company documents that all point to a very specific and, frankly, quite fascinating solution that some business leaders are using to escape this exact trap.
And I think it's important to clarify what this isn't.
Good point. We aren't talking about AI replacing everyone. We aren't talking about robots.
Right.
And we are definitely not talking about the sort of gig economy chaos of hiring random freelancers on a whim.
No, this is a much more structural shift. It's a different business model entirely.
We're doing a deep dive today into a South African managed virtual assistant agency called VAConnect.
VAConnect. And just to be clear on the terminology here, because I think it matters, the sources are very specific. They describe this not as outsourcing, which has all sorts of baggage attached to it, call centers and scripts,
Right.
but as remote partnering.
Remote partnering. It sounds a bit like marketing speak, doesn't it? But as we dug into the docs, it seems there is actually a real functional difference.
There is.
So over the next hour or so, we are going to tear apart the economics of this, the operational model, and the psychology behind why it seems to be working. We have sources ranging from those economic forecasts for Manchester all the way to internal documents detailing VAConnect's wellness programs.
Which, spoiler alert, involves something called atomic energy, which sounds intense, but is actually quite fascinating when you dig into it.
It really is. So the mission for today is simple. We are going to see if VAConnect really is rewriting the economics of how SMEs scale, or if it's just, another flavor of offshoring.
And we have to start with the math.
We have to. Let's go back to that 62,000 pounds.
Section 1, the arithmetic of advantage. Because at the end of the day, business is numbers.
It is. So let's break down the local cost reality. If you are a business owner in Greater Manchester today, or London, or Birmingham for that matter, and you need a mid-level admin, someone competent, someone who shows up, someone who can write an email without you needing to check it, what are you actually paying?
Well, the base salary is sitting right around $33,105 on average for that kind of mid-level administrator.
Okay, $33K. That sounds, it's high, but it seems manageable, right?
On paper, perhaps, but that is just the sticker price. That's just what goes on the offer letter. You have to add the burden, as they call it.
Right.
You have employer national insurance, which is levied on salaries above £5,000. You have mandatory pension contributions, which are legally required now.
Yep.
You have the overheads of the physical space rent, electricity, insurance, coffee, the Christmas party, you name it. When you stack all of that up, the total reliable cost is hitting somewhere between £45,000 and £50,000 annually.
And that's for a generalist.
For a generalist admin. And that aligns perfectly with David's nightmare scenario once you add in his one-off recruitment fees and setup costs.
So, okay, that's the baseline. Let's pivot. How does VAConnect compare? What is the price tag on a remote partner from South Africa?
The savings margin, according to all the data we've seen, is consistently between 50 and 70% less than a comparable UK hire.
50 to 70%. That is not a trimming of the fat. That is a complete restructuring of the cost base. That's half price.
It's a game changer. It's substantial. And the sources gave us some very specific pricing examples for their packages, which I think is helpful to visualize. Abstract percentages can be, a bit hard to grasp.
Right, make it concrete.
They have these tiers. For example, they have a package called the Forge.
The Forge. Tons and tens, like you're building something heavy.
Well, it's their full-time option. It's 40 hours a week. That comes in at $4,380 per month.
Okay, so doing the quick conversion in my head.
Yeah.
That is drastically lower than the UK burn rate for a full-time employee.
Significantly. And remember, that is a flat rate. No national insurance, no pension, no desk space costs. That's the all-in number.
What if you need more?
Well, if you need more capacity, say you're in a hyper-growth phase and you are just drowning in work, they have the Summit package. That's 60 hours a week for $6,080 a month.
Okay.
And for the heavy hitters, they have something called the Apex, which is 100 hours a week for $8,800 a month.
Wait a second. 100 hours a week, that's more than one person can physically work.
Cool.
Unless they're a robot or they just never sleep.
Exactly. And this is where the model gets interesting. You aren't necessarily hiring a person. You are hiring capacity. You are hiring a team output. So the Apex package might actually be 2.5 people working in shifts to cover all your needs.
Well, it's flexible.
Very. But even if you look at the smaller scale, for a dedicated starter package and something specialized like marketing or sales, you're looking at starting around $1,038 a month for 10 hours a week.
So it's scalable. You don't have to commit to a full-time salary if you just need 10 hours of help a week to clean up your CRM or schedule some social media posts.
Precisely. In terms of an hourly context, depending on whether you need a general admin or, say, a specialized software engineer, the rates range from roughly $17 to $60 per hour.
Okay, so the sticker price is obviously much, much lower. But I want to play devil's advocate here for a second. It's easy to say it's cheaper. You can find cheap things anywhere. I can buy a cheap pair of shoes, but they'll fall apart in a week and hurt my feet.
Sure.
The expert analysis in our source material brings up a really important concept here. Opportunity cost. It's not just about the money you save, it's about what you do with the money you save.
This is the allocation strategy, and this is what separates the businesses that just survive from the ones that truly thrive.
How so?
Let's take a concrete example from the files to illustrate this. Imagine a digital agency in Manchester. They are scaling from 5 people to 15. That is a really dangerous growth phase.
Right, the messy middle. That's where things break.
Everything breaks. Processes break, communication breaks, your culture starts to wobble. The traditional route says, okay, we are drowning in admin, so let's hire 3 admin roles to support the growing team.
Seems logical.
In Manchester, based on the numbers we just discussed, that's going to cost you about £140,000 a year, all in.
Ouch. That eats a massive hole in your margin. I mean, that could be your entire profit for the year gone.
Now take the remote route with VAConnect. You get 3 VAs for maybe £50,000, £60,000 total.
So you have an 80,000 pound difference just sitting there on the table.
And the question is, what does that £80,000 buy you?
The very nice company retreat. A new espresso machine.
You could get a very, very nice espresso machine. But for a smart business, that £80,000 funds a senior strategist who can actually go out and bring in new business.
Ah, so it's an investment in growth, not just cost cutting.
Exactly. It doubles the marketing budget to drive leads. Or, and this is crucial, it extends the company runway by 6 months.
That's the difference between surviving a downturn and going bust. That's resilience.
It completely changes the survival probability of the firm. And we have a case study that illustrates this perfectly. A guy named Jonathan Pierce. He runs a renewable energy consultancy.
I loved this story. He described his situation as successfully drowning.
It's such an evocative phrase, isn't it? He was working 80-hour weeks, revenue was growing, clients were happy, but he was physically falling apart.
Why?
Because he was doing everything from the high-level strategy to booking his own train tickets to Edinburgh.
The classic founder bottleneck. He was the bottleneck.
Totally. So he hired a VA named Fandy in Johannesburg via VAConnect.
And what was the result?
His work week dropped to 45 hours. Revenue is on track to double this year because he finally has the headspace to actually sell and meet clients. But here is the quote that really stuck with me. He said, "The economic argument is overwhelming, but the bigger win is reliability."
Reliability. That is a perfect segue, because anyone listening who has ever tried to hire a freelancer online knows that reliability is, well, let's call it variable.
To put it very politely, it's the Wild West out there.
And it all brings us to section 2, the managed difference versus the gig economy. Because I think a lot of listeners might be thinking, okay, I get the remote thing, but why don't I just go on Upwork? Why don't I just go on Fiverr? I can find someone for $10 an hour there.
You can, but you are falling into what our sources call the transactional trap.
Unpack that for us. What is the transactional trap?
The transactional trap is when you view remote help as a commodity. It's like buying printer paper. You go to the cheapest vendor, you click buy, and you just expect it to work. But human capital isn't a commodity, it's complex.
Right.
And the research we saw suggests that up to 30% of freelance hires do not meet expectations.
30%. That is a remarkably high failure rate. Imagine if 30% of the software you bought just didn't work when you installed it. You'd be furious.
It's a massive risk. And we have a story about this from the files. Emma Rodriguez, she runs a management consulting firm. She went the Upwork route, found someone with a great portfolio, glowing reviews, 5 stars all around.
Looked perfect on paper.
It was great for 3 months, and then the drift started.
The drift.
Yeah, missed deadlines, ghosting on messages, all the classic excuses. Oh, my internet is down. Oh, I have a family emergency. Oh, my laptop broke. It ended up costing her company not just money, but its reputation. She missed a major deliverable for a client because her freelancer just vanished into thin air.
That's the nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
You can't build a sustainable business on a foundation that might disappear tomorrow. It's like building on quicksand.
Exactly.
So how does VAConnect solve this? How is the managed model actually different from just a fancy job board?
Well, it goes back to their history. The company actually started way back in 2008 as a firm called Limetree Consulting. But in 2014, the founder, Karen, rebranded it to VAConnect.
Why?
Because she had this key insight. She realized the market didn't need another platform to find people. What businesses really need isn't access to assistants. They need assistants who fit.
Fit. That's a fuzzy word.
Eh.
How do they operationalize fit?
They use a proprietary process called the digital interview. And this isn't just checking if a candidate knows how to use Excel or create a PowerPoint or manage a Google Calendar.
So it's not a skills test.
It's partly about skills, but it's mostly about psychometrics and culture. It's a deep discovery process that maps the nuances of your business. Are you fast-paced and chaotic? Do you communicate in short bullet points or long paragraphs? Are you structured and formal? Do you hate emojis or do you love them?
So they're matching personalities and working styles, not just resumes.
Precisely. They map your company's DNA, and then they match you with someone whose DNA is compatible. It's a curation process, not a search engine.
And they put their money where your mouth is, right?
Right.
Because there's a guarantee involved.
If the match doesn't work out, because, sometimes humans are humans and it just doesn't click, VAConnect replaces the assistant. But crucially, and this is the part that solves the Emma Rodriguez problem, the business relationship with the agency continues.
Ah, I see.
You don't have to tear down your entire infrastructure, find a new agency, and start from scratch. You just swap out the talent plugin, essentially. The agency handles the entire transition.
And the stats on this seem to back it up. I saw a retention rate of 98%.
98% retention for clients and for the VAs over a 14-month period. In the outsourcing world, where churn is usually 40 to 50% annually, that is just unheard of. It's statistically anomalous.
That is stability. And speaking of stability, let's talk about infrastructure as a service. Because when I hire a freelancer off a platform, I have to figure out how to pay them in another currency. I have to get them to sign NDAs. I have to worry about their data security. It's a headache.
That is the management tax you pay with freelancers. You suddenly become the HR department, the IT department, and the payroll department all rolled into one. VAConnect handles all of that. They deal with the NDAs and data security. They use a platform called Bitrix 24 Cloud software for that, which is enterprise grade. They handle the single monthly invoice.
And backup coverage, you mentioned that.
This is a huge one. If your freelance VA gets the flu or their power goes out for a day, you don't have an admin. You are back to doing it all yourself. You're back to booking your own train tickets.
Right.
If your VAConnect VA gets the flu, the agency provides backup coverage. Someone else who has access to the notes and the systems steps in to keep things moving.
So the wheel keeps turning no matter what.
The wheel keeps turning. And they also handle the ongoing HR management and what they call their two-way happiness checks, which we can get to later. But the main point is it removes all that operational overhead from the client. You are buying an outcome, not managing a person.
Okay, so the economics make a lot of sense. We've established the massive savings. The management model seems robust. It solves for that reliability issue. But there is still the elephant in the room. Or maybe the elephant on the other side of the world.
The location factor.
Geography. This is section 3. Time zone and cultural synergy. Why South Africa? Why not the Philippines or India, which are the traditional hubs for this kind of work? I mean, the BPO industry in the Philippines is massive. Why look at South Africa?
It is massive, but according to the sources, it comes down to two critical things: time zone and culture. Let's look at the time zone problem with Asia first.
Manila is 8 hours ahead of the UK.
Right. So we have this case study from Sarah Okonkwo, who runs a digital marketing agency. She shared her experience with this, and she said, by the time they were awake, our clients were asleep.
That lag. It's the communication loop of death.
It kills momentum. If you send an urgent request at 2 p.m. Manchester time and your VA is in Manila, they are likely already in bed. You won't get a reply until the next morning. It made Sarah's agency look totally unresponsive. She couldn't react to client needs in real time. She was always a day behind.
So how does South Africa solve this problem?
It's simple geography. South Africa is on UTC +2.
Which is?
Only 2 hours ahead of the UK.
2 hours. That's nothing. That's the difference between London and... well, it's less than the difference between London and New York in the other direction.
It's negligible. Let's do the math of the workday. Your team in Manchester starts work at 9 a.m. Your VA in Cape Town is just starting their day at 11 a.m. That means there is a 7-hour overlap for real-time collaboration.
So if I need something done now, I can just jump on a Zoom call or a Slack huddle and it gets done?
Exactly. No one is waking up at 4 a.m. for a meeting. No one is staying up until midnight and destroying their circadian rhythm. It's a normal workday for everyone. You can have a team stand-up meeting at 9:30 a.m. and everyone is fresh and ready to go.
And that leads to the other factor you mentioned, linguistic neutrality.
This is a fascinating term from the sources, and it's a huge differentiator. South Africans are widely known for having very neutral English accents.
I've noticed that. It's very clear, isn't it? It's not a heavy dialect that can sometimes be difficult to understand.
It is, and the education system there is conducted largely in English, which produces professionals with native level fluency. But it's more than just grammar. It's about Cultural affinity. The legal systems have common roots. The banking systems are similar. The business etiquette, even the sense of humor, it's all very compatible.
So there are no awkward phrasings or missed cultural references that you can sometimes get with other outsourcing destinations.
Exactly. And that is huge for client-facing roles.
It changes the game.
It allows VAs from VAConnect to handle things like customer support or even sales calls without the end customer ever realizing they are speaking to someone on a different continent. It feels local. And for UK business, maintaining that local feel is often critical for brand trust. You don't want your customers feeling like they've been offloaded to a generic call center halfway across the world.
Okay, so we have the cost, the management model, and the time zone advantage.
Mhm.
But VAConnect claims to have another layer to all this, something they call the human infrastructure.
This is section 4, and honestly, this is where VAConnect really diverges from the typical agency model. Most agencies are just body shops. They place the person, they take their cut every month, and they walk away. That's it.
So we are talking about VA Varsity and atomic energy.
Yes. Let's start with the problem that this is designed to solve. In the freelance world, there is a massive problem of stagnation. You hire someone for their skills today, but unless they are incredibly self-motivated, those skills stagnate.
They don't evolve.
They're not getting training, they aren't going to seminars or learning new tools, they're just executing the same tasks over and over.
Right. In a way, they are depreciating assets.
That's a great way to put it. So VAConnect created VA Varsity.
The Varsity.
It's a free internal sort of Udemy-style platform specifically for their virtual assistants.
Interesting. So it's basically continuous professional development.
It's continuous upskilling. They have courses on new software, marketing best practices, industry workflows, new AI tools. The benefit to the client is that your assistant is actively improving over time. They aren't just maintaining competence. They are getting better, more valuable.
So they might start out just doing email management, but 6 months later, through VA Varsity, they've learned how to run your CRM or how to manage a basic WordPress site.
Exactly. You get an asset that appreciates. That's incredibly rare in employment generally, let alone in the world of remote work.
Okay, and then you have atomic energy.
Which sounds like a superhero team. Or maybe a nuclear power plant.
It does. What is it?
It's their wellness program.
A wellness program for remote VAs.
Yes, and think about why that is so important. The risk of burnout is incredibly high in remote work. Isolation is a real documented issue.
Yeah.
Sitting in a room by yourself for 8 hours a day can be mentally and physically draining.
Sure.
So atomic energy includes things like diet and exercise programs, access to physical and mental mobility coaches, even performance coaches to help them structure their day.
That is surprisingly holistic. Most companies don't even offer that to their in-house staff.
The logic behind it is simple and very smart. A supported VA is a stable VA. If you want to achieve that 98% retention rate, you have to treat people like human beings, not like cogs in a machine. You have to make sure they are physically and mentally capable of doing their best work.
And that ties into the VAPI program, I assume.
It does. VAPI stands for the Two-Way Happiness Program.
I love that name. It sounds delightfully optimistic.
It's all about managing the relationship dynamics. It's not just about asking, is the client happy? It's also about asking, is the VA happy with the client? It ensures that the culture works both ways.
So they're protecting their talent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom Whitfield, a sauce founder we looked at in the case studies, had a great quote about this. He said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast."
A classic line from Peter Drucker.
And VAPI is how they ensure the culture doesn't get eaten. If a client is being abusive, or if the expectations are completely unrealistic, VAConnect steps in to mediate. They protect their talent, which in turn protects the long-term viability and stability of the placement for the client.
So we've established that these aren't just random people with laptops. They're curated, trained, and supported. But what can they actually do? Because I think there is a stereotype that a VA is just someone who manages your calendar and deletes spam emails.
That is the old view. That's the 2010 view of what a virtual assistant is. Section 5 is about what VAConnect calls its specialized pillars. They organize their talent into very specific verticals.
So it's not just general admin.
No, not at all. For example, they have marketing VA support. So these are people who can handle your content calendars, pull engagement metrics, draft social media posts, manage your buffer queue, and respond to comments.
The sales VA support.
Lead generation, CRM management, keeping the sales pipeline clean, which, let's be honest, is something most sales teams are absolutely terrible at doing themselves.
That's true. Salespeople want to sell, not spend hours updating Salesforce records.
Exactly. So the VA does the hygiene work so the salesperson can focus on closing deals. Then you have the next level up, executive VA support.
This is your high-level gatekeeper, the person supporting the C-suite.
Board meeting logistics, complex international travel arrangements, preparing investor decks. This is the kind of person who can anticipate what the CEO needs before the CEO even knows they need it.
And you mentioned they even have software engineers and project managers.
Yes, high-level technical roles. You can hire a fully qualified developer or a project manager through this model to augment your tech team.
So if I'm a listener and I'm sold on the idea, or at least intrigued, how does this actually happen? What is the implementation roadmap? Because making that switch from local hiring to a remote partner feels like a big leap. It feels risky.
It's a very structured process, and it's designed specifically to minimize that anxiety. Week 1 is discovery and matching. This is where they do that deep dive, the digital interview we talked about.
Right, where they map your requirements.
They dig into what you actually need versus what you think you need. Then, weeks 2 and 3 are selection and contracting. You get a short list of 2 or 3 pre-vetted candidates. You interview them yourself over video.
So you actually talk to them. It's not just a profile they send you.
Oh, absolutely. You have to feel the chemistry. You have to see if you click. You have to see if you can laugh at the same jokes. It's a human connection. Then, weeks 4 to 6 are onboarding. This is where you define clear KPIs, set up the systems, and integrate them into your team. And then from month 2 onwards, it's all about optimization and increasing their autonomy.
And how does that timeline and the effort involved compared to the traditional hiring process?
The sources compare the 3 to 4 hours of total time investment from the company's leadership in this process versus the 30-day or sometimes 60-day slog of posting ads, screening hundreds of CVs, conducting first and second round interviews, negotiating offers, dealing with counter offers.
It's a nightmare.
It's a massive efficiency gain. You are getting 90% of your time back just in the hiring process alone.
It sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? But the case studies we've seen seem to bear it out. I want to pivot now for our last section to section 6, the psychology of delegation. Because I think for a lot of founders and small business owners, the barrier isn't money. It isn't even trust in a remote worker. It's control.
The bottleneck founder.
Guilty as charged, probably.
I think we all are, to some extent. It's hard to let go of your baby. Lucy Chen, who runs a sustainable fashion brand, put it perfectly in her interview. She said, "I was drowning in 1,000 small decisions."
That resonates so much. The decision fatigue is real.
She said it's not just about saving time. She called hiring her VA a mental health intervention. Think about the cognitive load. Waking up at 3 a.m. worrying about whether those invoices were sent versus knowing a VA has already handled it.
The relief must be incredible.
It's tangible, and this is where the productivity paradox has really been resolved.
This is the research from Nicholas Bloom at Stanford.
Yeah. Yes. For years, the default management thinking was, if I can't see them, they aren't working. Bloom's research and many studies since have just blown that out of the water.
What was the main finding?
The main finding was that remote workers are just as productive, and often more so, when they are managed correctly. The Bureau of Labor Statistics data supports this too. There is a clear positive relationship between remote work and total factor productivity.
And the key there is that phrase, when managed correctly.
Which brings us full circle back to the VAConnect model. These VAs are fully remote and they're dedicated. They aren't hybrid. They aren't trying to balance a commute with working from home. They have structured, quiet environments. There are no office politics to distract them. It's just focused, deep work.
So where does this all leave us? We've looked at the costs, the shocking $62K versus the massive savings. We've looked at the model, the managed, curated approach versus the transactional gig economy. We've looked at the people, the geography, and the psychology.
I think we're looking at the future of work, or at least a significant part of it.
And that brings us to our outro.
The shift is already here. The early adopters in Manchester, the David Morrisons, the Jonathan Pierces, they aren't pioneers anymore. They are pragmatists. They're just looking at the spreadsheet and making the only rational choice available to them.
They're just doing what makes sense.
It boils down to this concept of proximity versus value. Traditional hiring for these kinds of remote-compatible roles is broken. The premium you pay for a local admin, that extra £20 or $30K, that hidden tax, is often just a premium for proximity.
You are paying for them to be within driving distance. You're paying for the potential to tap them on the shoulder, even if you never do.
Exactly. And the question every business owner has to ask is that proximity necessary for this role? For a front of house receptionist? Maybe. For a digital marketing assistant who lives in Slack and Google Docs? Absolutely not.
David Morrison's conclusion was pretty stark. He said, I'm not hiring locally for admin work again. The math just doesn't work.
And when the math doesn't work, business behavior changes. It has to. It's inevitable.
So here is our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Look at your own team. Look at your own budget. Which roles on your payroll are you paying a proximity premium for?
Which roles are you paying double for just so they can sit in a specific postcode near you?
And what could your business do with that budget, that 60-pound K, that 80K, if you reclaimed it?
Could you hire that senior strategist you've been putting off? Could you finally double your ad spend and go after that big competitor? Could you launch that new product line a year ahead of schedule?
Or could you just sleep better at night, knowing you have a 6-month runway in the bank?
That's worth a lot, too. Sometimes that's worth everything.
It certainly is. That's all for this deep dive into VAConnect and the changing landscape of hiring. We hope this helps you look at your own spreadsheets a little differently tomorrow morning.
Thanks for tuning in.
We will catch you on the next one.